before we leave the telecommunication tax, why would Commissioner Bill Beavers, formerly an alderman, who knew in advance that the Illinois Supreme Court ruled the city tax that he voted for, city telecommunication tax, unconstitutional, why would he introduce the same thing again at the county level?
I think that you find a lot of your local elected officials, and I've been a former mayor, I can attest to this, they believe in the power of the home rule form of government, that you can do things locally that will transcend and be overpowering to any federal statute. So a lot of them operate with that punch drunk type of perspective, that we can in Cook County or we can in the city of Chicago do things that defy the wisdom of the nation and federal aspects.
Right. Finally, on the cigarette tax issue, at the county level, the cigarette tax was raised from 18 cents per pack to $2 per pack. If you add the city, state, county, and federal tax on a pack of cigarettes, it's $4.30 on a pack of cigarettes when you add up all the taxes. At the county government, we saw the income as a result of a $1.82 increase per pack go from $150 million per year to $175 million per year, and we lost 50% of the revenue.
Because people tend to buy in Indiana, people tend to buy over the internet, and people tend to buy from smugglers, and so it really doesn't achieve the revenue resources that were projected. And it's that way all over the nation, where states are coming up with increases and trying to balance the budget on the back of a minority of people that are smoking. And yes, it does tend to hurt those that are minority and poor worse than it does others.
To talk about the most onerous local tax, the sales tax, which I said is, as I said earlier in the intro, is 11.25% in the central business district and 10.25% across the county. We have lost revenue. In fact, the county in the original 09 budget projection thought that we would get about $430 million in revenue. With the increase of 1 percentage point, or 133% increase, it went from 0.25 to 1.25. Yet this year, that projection was rolled back to $370 million, $50 million less. Why would that be, Ralph?
The reason is that the actuaries have come up with a more realistic projection based upon the one-year experience that they've had. Whenever you raise taxes like that, people tend to buy less legally, and so you're going to get less revenues. They're finding this happens all over the country. When you increase the excise taxes, you get less revenues. So it's counterproductive, and it's a policy that sounds good on the surface because the healthcare lobbies think that you're punishing people and getting them not to smoke. But in reality, you find more people going to the black market, more people shopping in Indiana and Wisconsin, and less revenues collected by the state of Illinois and Cook County.
It's funny, I thought we were a country that believes in individual responsibility and freedom of choice, a freedom to conduct one's own life. What happened to those principles that this country was built on?
I think the propaganda that we've all been subjected to for the last 4 or 5 years, with the number of uninsured and the people that don't have health care insurance, has led us to believe that a compassionate government is obligated to provide health care. The other shoe is that, so since the government is providing the health care, they should be concerned about how the individual has its own personal health habits, because after all, the government's providing the care, so now they have a vested interest in your individual health care, so they should be able to dictate to you how you eat, what you smoke, and these other factors. Right. So we're finding that we're asking for it when we want to socialize medicine. We're actually asking for a more oppressive state and less individual liberty.
Now, even though the politicians at the local level, and I'm here talking about in particular Mayor Daley at the city level and President Todd Stroger at the county level, have kept the real estate tax levy at a constant and have been hesitant, except the mayor raised it last year some to fund the public schools and government, because city government is always broke, CTA is always broke. They have been nickel and diming the population of the city and the county with these user fees and excise taxes and home rule taxes and cigarette taxes, liquor taxes, water tax, entertainment tax, parking tax. I mean, it's tax on tax. And every year, despite all of these proliferation in various taxes, the city is broke. This year they're running a deficit. Last year they had a running deficit. The county last year had a deficit. This year they were crying poor, had a deficit despite the sales tax increase and other increases. The corruption tax is what I want to get to next. which saps the revenues that are generated, and in fact reduces the revenues that we bring to these local governments because people alter their buying habits and locations. The corruption tax is what I want to focus on next. We read recently, yesterday I believe, in the Sun-Times, where they talk about the Mayor Daley's son getting a no-bid contract for $17 million to inspect sewers. His nephew Vaneco getting $60 million in pension funds from the city police pension fund to buy Chicago Public Defender building and some other properties on the south side in anticipation of the Olympics coming in. We know about Ellison Davis and Tony Resco and all the others who cleaned up at the CHA, but they weren't cleaning up the properties. They were cleaning up the monies and doing nothing with the properties. And this corruption tax and the corruption that's endemic throughout the city and county government is what I want to talk about next. Why isn't there any accountability and punishment to those politicians who constantly engage in this corruption, particularly in the African American community, and they get reelected cycle after cycle?
Well, no, I think that you have to understand that Patrick Fitzgerald is here and that there have been some changes recently, and we can only hope that there is a new culture of responsibility and accountability and transparency emerging in the state of Illinois, as witnessed by the most recent unfortunate incident of our past governor. I mean, so I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Fitzgerald. Patrick Fitzgerald is not elected. He's a U.S. attorney appointed by nominated by the U.S. Senator from Illinois, former U.S. Senator Fitzgerald, no relation to Patrick Fitzgerald. Peter Fitzgerald, former U.S. Senator, nominated him. But I'm talking about elected officials. Why is it every election cycle that the same people who continue to engage in rampant patronage, nepotism, corruption get elected again and again? What is it about the water in Chicago and Cook County that produces these kinds of results despite the evidence?
I think you have a valid question. It gets beyond the purview of a think tank per se, and certainly it's more of a political phenomenon. But what it is, it's a question of a get out the vote operation. It's a question of apathy. It's a question of a lack of a turnout of voters, how voters are turned off by the general system. So there's a number of factors that create low turnouts and motivate the voters that do turn out for a reason in order to maintain something. And so I think that is a system that takes care of itself and has been successful in sustaining itself.
I want to again inform our viewers that if you want more information about the functioning of Cook County and city government, go to our website, reformcookcounty.com, or you can call us at 773-735-1700.